Our next guest is Evita Stoop, who is Director of Client Engineering for IBM and CEE. That's very complicated, but we're going to make it very easy, and you'll see that in a minute. Evita's team is actually designing and implementing AI-driven solutions for multiple businesses across industries, and we are really excited to have her here today. So first of all, welcome, Evita. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's fantastic to be here, to feel the energy of all the sessions. Yeah. So really nice.
Thank you. So one of Evita's many talents is her ability to bridge the gap between technology and practical business applications. And actually, when I was getting ready for this interview, people were telling me, hey, Luis, you're a Red Hat guy, you know a lot about marketing. We all know what marketing is, more or less, but not everyone is familiar with what client engineering is, right?
No,
so
obviously.
How do we start there? What is client engineering? What do you do? And what's your relationship with the AI world?
Yeah, so client engineering, we're a team within IBM Technology. And basically, we are a very diverse team with lots of different people in there, consultants, designers, architects, AI engineers, platform engineers. And what is the essence of what we do, and that's specifically relevant in the AI area, is that when a client has a question and they say, we want to optimize our operations, we want to have a better customer care operation, we want to improve basically how we do our HR activities, and they don't necessarily know what technology to start with, they don't have a technology question, they come to us. So we can sit with them, we basically talk with them about their problem. We spend a lot of time understanding the problem before we try to kind of imagine together the solution. And then basically what we work towards is a MVP, a minimum viable product. So we work with our clients, with our partners to envision what technology can mean to solve their business issues. So we don't only talk about the value that technology can bring, but actually bring it to life, to show it so that they can feel it, they can touch it. And I think specifically the approach that we take is that we co-create with them. So this is not something where we take our team, we go off into a black box and we disappear and then we come back with a fantastic flying and singing machine. But we co-create together with that client to make sure that they're part of that whole process. They get skin in the game, they understand the tooling, they understand also their own business questions. And together, basically, we built that pilot.
So everything you're saying has a lot to do with collaboration.
Yeah,
right? With open exchange of opinions, building something.
Yep.
We live in a very technological world where it looks like all the technology solutions are kind of the essence of things. So maybe the IT people should be leading that. Some other people say, well, it's actually business owners who should be saying, okay, this is where we need to go. How do we go there? So how do you co-create with IT owners, with business owners, with both? How does that process work?
Yeah, and I think that's a very actual question because indeed you see that originally, when there's a new technology, it's the IT world that jumps on it, right? And they're interested in what it is that kind of is new, what features, what is it doing. But ultimately, it's the business value that you generate that should really fund those types of projects. So that's also a shift that you see. We see that with our clients and our partners that we work with, that originally it's the IT guys that come to us that say, we want to do experimentation, we want to try out what's going on. But we extensively and explicitly invite the business owners, the line of business, to work with us, together with the IT guys, to jointly discuss what is that value they're after, what is the architecture that it needs to land in. And in that combination, we ultimately bring things to life. So we did a case for Allianz, the big insurance company. And it's literally the guys from the bodily injuries team that we sit with. So they have the call agents, they have the guys that know every day what their problem is in making those phone calls to their guests and their claim guys. And they have the technology guys, the IT guys, the developers that ultimately, if there is a solution, they know how to integrate it into their architecture. And by working together from the get-go, you already know how can we create something that will pay itself back so that we don't create an investment that will never basically get a payback. It's just an investment. It's just a cost element. but also that you don't just talk to the LOB guys that only talk about this great proposition that they want to create, which is not affordable or something that is not implementable into their architecture or with the data that they've got available. So it's really that combination that is great.
And actually a key part from the technology side of that combination that has changed a lot in the last couple of years is all the emergence of generative AI tools, right?
Yes.
So today, in our event today, we have seen a lot of different out-of-the-box tools that all of us can use in our daily business or in our daily activities. How has that changed the way in which you approach solving problems with your customers?
Yeah, well, it has changed tremendously, obviously. And that is also the essence of what we do in client engineering. So we envision what technology can do, because coming up with what that solution could look like with Gen AI, it's very often something they couldn't even have imagined upfront. So even designing those solutions, it's a big thing. I think what we encounter a lot in these last years, so really kind of since 2022, we've been diving into this. It's how our clients and our partners deal with data. And you know the saying, right? So crap data in is crap insights out. And that becomes more and more important as you get along. That also counts for the language models that we use. So we're talking a lot about the large language models that are on the basis of all of the applications that we're using. But you see also a move towards smaller language models. Obviously, DeepSeek was a big example of that, also very much driven as an open source model. And you see that the smaller models, where there's more view on what is actually the data quality that is being used to train those models, that will also have a more transparent and open view on what is basically behind the answers ultimately that you're getting. And so the trustworthiness of basically the output that you're getting and the reasoning that's behind it, that is much more a concern today than in the very early phases where we were just experimenting. And so the actual work to make sure that the data is something we can trust becomes a much bigger point. So there was a case, for instance, that we did in Eastern Europe for a big power distribution company in Slovenia. And originally they came to us only with a question, we want to do big data analysis on our power network for the purpose of being able to better distribute our power activities and our maintenance activities. Ultimately, when we went into the conversation with them, we found out that basically there was a lot of data completely siloed in different areas of the organization. So when we would even build an application to be able to make use of all of their data, we first had to cross the challenge of getting access to all those data silos and making sure we have a platform that basically enables to access the data from all of these different areas. And so then the conversation evolves from just saying we need an application that can do that analysis to how do you organize your data? How do you create a proper data lakehouse system that you can access all of your data and have it up to date? And then also wondering if you ultimately use a model, do you really want to use a model and send all of that very trustworthy data that you have in your company on a model that is in the cloud? And so they decided to use our watsonx on-prem technology on a storage solution, a Fusion ACI solution that is actually on-premise. So they control their own data, where it sits. It will never leave their premises. It will never go to the cloud. And for them and for a lot of other companies, we also see that all of those evolving elements, how do I deal with my data? How can I make sure this is based in a trusted place? That becomes really the discussion.
Yep, and actually you've talked about experimentation.
Yes.
So there's many ways in which companies like entrepreneurs watching this or like big companies are looking at experimentation, right? So some people are starting to use like open source models like Granite, for example. Some others are using all the SaaS ones that we know, ChatGPT, Anthropic, etc. There's also companies that are like Neural Magic, that they are making smaller and more efficient models out of working with existing models today, right? All of that, at the end of the day, there's a lot of pilots going on out there. So what AI pilots are you seeing that gain the most traction, that prove the value faster, so companies can continue investing and entrepreneurs can continue generating more value of them?
So I think we see three big buckets, 3-4 big buckets of use cases that continue to come back. One is in the area of customer care. That is something kind of that the first chatbots basically have proven value to just increase the customer experience and also save money basically on operations there. A big one is on the sales side, the marketing and sales side of the house, where also you see a lot of use case in creating content, in being able to better target the audience. And a very big one actually on the IT side of the house, on IT modernization and with code assistance, basically supporting the IT organization to also make IT translations from very rare code, for instance, like COBOL to Java, which makes it kind of much more easy to find resources in that area. And also a big arena we see in the HR space. So from the simple use cases on onboarding of talent, we've seen also today there was conversations about creating learning plans, creating dedicated learning, improving that all the way to doing advanced job compensation and career compensation advice through AI tools. So that whole set basically is a lot of value added.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're mentioning AI tools. Today we have seen different tools that different members actually of EO have built around different AI concepts, right?
Yeah.
So does IBM always build solutions only with their own technology? Do you partner with companies like maybe some of the companies that are watching this stream here?
Yeah. Now, both. So, I mean, also things like the HR tool, for instance, that is something we've extensively experimented with and built internally. So we've really been client zero for that proposition to make sure that we understand what we're doing, what we're talking against, and how we're developing basically that proposition. But there's a lot of things obviously that are developed in the market, and as smaller companies, entrepreneurs, smaller businesses, very often you can develop something much quicker than as a big organization we can develop. So just in the last 2 years, we've did of around $7 billion on acquisitions. So acquiring smaller businesses, that's a big thing of what we do to basically expand what we do. On the other hand, also, we're working very intensively together with independent software vendors, entrepreneurs, basically to embed our technology in their offerings, so that jointly we can make new IP. We help them, and that's something specifically also with my client engineering team. We sit together with very small businesses also, you know, just 50 people, 100 people, finding out what can be that new application that we can create together that they can offer to their clients. And we then also open up our IBM basically network to be able to get them in front of lots of other partners. So that is a very interesting motion, and through that we're really expanding business together.
Okay, so if there's anybody here that has some sort of technology or something that they think they could fit that, you have like an ecosystem of partners that they could be a part of, and maybe
absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
and they can reach out to you or to someone.
Reach out to me. Where's the camera? Reach out to me.
Okay. Okay. We have talked about technology. If we go out from technology for a moment and we look at AI more holistically, right?
Yep.
So I'm a business owner. I have a business like everybody else watching here. How can we incorporate like this AI thinking? How can we be more strategic beyond thinking about what tool we're going to be using?
Yeah, so I think what you see, and those were also really in the early days of AI, I think a lot of companies were thinking it as something you bolt on to your business. So you're having the business as it is, you're taking a tiny little part of that, you think, how can I optimize that by infusing some Gen AI capabilities to it? What you see the bigger and more advanced companies doing today is actually turning that thinking around. So instead of doing plus AI, so you're bolting it on, you start with AI. So it becomes AI plus. And basically that means that you start with the thinking and with the notion, what can AI, if I start with that, mean for my business? You build your business models around it, you build your culture around it, you basically train your people to be very advanced in how they can deal with AI. So you also know the saying, right? So people asking, does AI basically take over people's jobs? Well, it's not AI that is taking over people's job. It's the people that know how to work with AI will take over the jobs of people that don't know how to work with AI. So you have to ingrain it into the way how you basically design and organize your business. And that makes the difference between the businesses that really understand this potential, that know that they have to change basically also the skills of their workers, but also how they train them, what is the culture, and how they evolve there.
Right. And in addition to telling customers what they need to be doing, is IBM testing this internally? Do you dog feed your own technology, your AI solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I briefly touched upon it with the HR use cases. So Ask HR was one of our very first applications where I think already 5 years back, we started out with Watson Assistant, which was not Gen AI. It was kind of traditional machine learning AI. And through that, we understood what were the questions in the organization. But we also grew basically the ability of the organization to adapt their ways of working, to be able to interact also with that tool. And through that, we learn a lot about how to kind of position this and ultimately grow the tool, experiment with it, play with it, and continuously innovate with it. Because I think that's also something, once you go from that plus AI to AI plus, so you embed it in the core of your business, you need to continuously innovate and experiment, try things out, and basically continue to change who you are and what you do. And that also positions you ultimately better when you're in that space to position that to your clients if you're also selling those kinds of things. So, for instance, we are just in the middle of closing a deal with a big online travel and booking company. You might guess who that is. Has something to do with booking. So, it was basically us talking about our own experiences, so talking to their HR department on how we work with those tools. And that got them really enthusiastic because they saw this wasn't a couple of people trying to sell a technology platform which has great capabilities, but also how basically as employees and as managers, we were really reaping the benefits of it. And that is really convincing.
Totally. And if you think about small and medium-sized businesses, which is lots of the people that are watching now, what are the best ways, in your opinion, your experience, to start experimenting with AI beyond trying with SaaS tools, etc.?
Yeah, and I think, and that also goes back to something we were mentioning at the beginning. So there's this pendulum that goes from kind of the deep techies that started out working with Gen AI, the data scientists that were doing all the really complicated prompting and fine-tuning and kind of digging into all the tools. It's swinging over to having indeed your SaaS solutions that make it really easy. You can have a business owner that just kind of swipes a credit card, they buy a solution, implement in their business. But as mentioned, when the pendulum will swing back a little bit to making AI part of the essence of your organization, so the AI plus thinking. And then that basically means you continuously innovate, you continuously collaborate between line of business and IT, and together continuously define how can we improve what we're doing. And I think the nimbleness that the smaller organizations have, entrepreneurs have, all you guys basically that are watching, make sure you ingrain this. You don't just embed a technology by a SaaS application, but you play with it yourself. And I think platforms like we have it with Watson X, Watson X AI, Watson X Data, Watson X Governance, they allow you to play. I mean, a lot of these tools are no code or low code. So even, the 150,000 people within IBM, we're all going through a yearly rally where we go hands-on. We just have to go through all the tools. And at the beginning, you think like, oh my God, how we're going to do it. But everybody, doesn't matter what role you are, everybody goes into the studio and starts working it, which is fantastic.
And I'm sure you've seen successes. You have also approached companies that were not happy, were even failing when implementing AI, right? So what do you think are mistakes that small and business-sized businesses make when they're approaching AI?
Yeah, so a big one goes back to not realizing how important it is to have your data ready. So when data is all over the place, when you don't actually really know what is where, that ends up in a big mess. So then we can try to start creating a pilot with them and for them. But when we cannot access the data, when it's everywhere and they don't know what's important, what's not important, that's a big issue. Another big issue is thinking that you're buying technology. So this is not about buying technology, it's embracing a different way of thinking about your business. So if you're not willing to go through that digital transformation, then you're basically underestimating the impact that this gives. So for some companies, I mean, it's enough if you're of a smaller company to get the CEO all the way kind of to all the employees in the company to get involved. Bigger companies, and that's, I think, interesting about working with IBM, we have a technology lag and we have a consulting lag. So the big companies, we pull the consulting guys in and really go through a quite extensive process around this digital transformation to talk about how do you really embrace this as an organization. And then I think a final point, which I think is extremely important, is understanding how important it is to really drive ethical business. It's so easy with Gen AI to think about the fantastic upside it can give, but also, and this is, I think it's Spider-Man or something. So when you have great power, it also gives you like a great authority to do something with it and be responsible. I don't know, they say it in a much more smooth way, but so when you have that power in your hand, you better understand that you need to deal with it in a very ethical way. And in Europe, obviously, we have the EU AI Act that also enforces all kinds of rules, regulations, making sure you do a proper risk assessment, making sure you have the proper governance in place. And that is not a one-off activity. That's continuously monitoring as you're developing your models, as you're deploying your models and put them into your operational production environments, that you continuously check that there's no hateful content, there's no aggressive, no profane speech in there. And again, this needs to be embedded. And I think when you're too lightweight thinking about, we're just gonna take this application in-house. I mean, just this morning I was listening to the radio, and in the Netherlands, the government actually also prohibited their employees to use ChatGPT because they're afraid that data might leak into the model. And you know, it can be used to train the model, and it also means that your data that you're inserting into the tool might end up with people that you don't want them to kind of see your data. So yeah, I think that is a big thing.
Well, Evita, that was awesome. Thanks so much. I'm so happy that we were able to touch on what's working, what's not, how to prevent it. And I loved your last statements about manage risk and also embrace the opportunity. So again, thank you so much for joining us here.
Very welcome.
And so here to all the entrepreneurs from the Entrepreneur Organization. And I'm going to give it back to Edward here, right?
Very good.
If there's one question I can still ask. Okay, you work with IBM.
Yes.
We are business owners, small to medium, some of them a bit larger. I think you came down a lot from this big IBM where you have lots of resources to start AI projects. To us, you basically portrayed us as business owners who can swipe a credit card, use a SaaS, and then get going. I was triggered by the fact that you said come up with an AI first model. Instead of gradually adding AI to your existing business. Yep. We have some spectacular examples, by the way, in just 40 minutes. But there's more of that. But how? Can you narrow that gap a little bit more even?
On what that could look like?
Yes.
If you really kind of put it at the base of what you do?
Yes.
Maybe through an example. So one of the first companies we worked with, not so big kind of media house from Norway, it's called Polaris, and they have a label called Itrumse. I don't know if I pronounce it well, but it's something like that. They have a whole set of journalists, basically, that scrape all the news on construction permits. And basically, we started out with building an advisory for them to make it much easier, basically, to find the most newsworthy bits of documentations that are out there in the market. If that is all you do, you're just a little bit more efficient in what you do. Yeah. But if you then start to reimagine, what should your journalists actually start to do? And if you can free up their time because they are not spending it on endlessly crawling through all of their information, but if you take it as a given that AI can do all of that work for you, you start to redefine what is the role of that journalist. And then you start to really define what is your business really about? What is that added value that your journalist can then do? Is it still a journalist? Do they start to have more qualitative conversations with the people that are kind of defining those constructs? And do you then create more newsworthy articles that you can deliver faster to market with higher quality? And I think that combination then becomes really interesting. So HR, similar type of story. Yes, you can free up the time of the HR professionals by integrating all of those tools. What do you let the HR professionals do? Yeah. And how do you define what is their role? So I think that is turning the tables around. Don't only think about the efficiencies that you can create, but really, what is that new role of that person where the time is freed up? And how does that drive the essence of your business? I hope that helps.
Yeah, a little bit, but also triggers a new question. So how about creating a roadmap? When the environment is changing so fast,
yep.
you can imagine where you want to be with your organization in 2-3 months. But how about it's nearly impossible to foresee the future in a year.
Yeah, you cannot, and that's I think where what Luis and I also just talked about. It's the continuous experimentation, and I think as soon as you think this is my proposition, and I'm just going to lean backwards and just kind of nuance it a little bit in 2 to 5 years time and let the money come in. You're dead. I mean, we cannot afford it as IBM. We know we have to survive by continuously changing. I mean, we're a profoundly different company today than we were 5 years ago. As a small company, that's exactly what you also need to do. You have to continuously see, who am I today? How am I competitive? And be even more, and you are more agile and more nimble to be able to change. So to continuously look at yourself, who am I today with that new technology in hand?
It's a big job for a company. How old is IBM?
113 years old.
So you guys are doing pretty good for an old company like that.
Yeah, and we can miss a beat once in a while, and I think Arvind Krishna, our CEO, has talked about it. So we can afford to miss a beat because we have a very good cash position and we have existing customers. But also we cannot afford to miss 2 beats.
Right.
So and therefore we're buying a lot of kind of smaller companies to also stay on the edge. But yeah, we have to continue to change.
Thank you, Evita. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evita. Now we have a lot of new opportunities potentially with IBM here. Among them, having Evita here, thank you again. So we're going to pass it on to our next speaker.
Thank you.